Women of Reddit, what was your best, most exciting sexual experience? The first time I had sex with my now ex-fiancé. It's not an exciting story, it's just that the previous boyfriend, to whom I'd given my virginity, was absolutely horrible to me. I was scared of him, which led to being tense, and when we did have sex he didn't really care if he was hurting me or not. So when me and ex-fiancé first did it, I was like, wow. I don't know what Redacted was doing, but it was not this. The guy I'm seeing now is amazing in bed. I've been with a few guys before and X was, well, this guy now is a drummer, so he has stamina, strength, rhythm and dexterity. He's also the warmest and most genuinely caring guys I've ever met. He just seems to understand my very soul. He takes as much time as he needs and gave me the most mind-blowing orgasm I've ever had, toy and vibrators included, last week with just his hands. We're just FWB right now. I have my life goals sorted out and I'm working towards them. He's still figuring it out. But it's rough. He's honestly my best friend and I would much rather lose the ex than his friendship, but I'm also, well, I'm madly in love with him. I can't tell him yet, because I want him to decide his life goals for himself without any pressure from me. But if I was religious, I'd be praying a dozen times a day for things to work out between us. I'm the kind of person who only hooks up with people I've hooked up with before cause I'm too shy to meet new people. I never had a one night stand before. I have nothing against them, but I've always been kind of prude. I had just gotten out of a LTR spanning nearly 7 years and I downloaded Tinder. I matched with someone nearly 22 years older than me and he invited me out for drinks that same night. I decided to be very brave and just went for it, and I'm so glad I did. He ended up actually being this beautiful, silver fox humanitarian lawyer who just flew back stateside. He kept complimenting how beautiful and witty I was, which I really needed considering my self-esteem was completely in the gutter at this point. We met up in Midtown, and after a few drinks he asked if I wanted to see the view from his apartment. Internally, I said frick it and walked 2 blocks away to his skyrise apartment, which overlooked Nick and was so pretentious it even had its own equinox in it. The view was lovely, but the ex was even better. I felt so attractive at that point and I hadn't felt that way in such a long time. We exchanged numbers, he reached out to do it all again. But I was happy with my standalone experience that helped me get my mojo back. Best, with a BF on shrooms. Most exciting, threesome with a B person. My former boss and his wife are polyamorous, 14 of marriage. At some point they invited me to drinks and get to know me. It is a unique moment being penetrated while receiving oral sex. Best orgasm of my life. Oh, almost 2 years later and I'm still with them and still great. I recently ended a 1.5 year long hookup with this cop I met through my job. It was so exciting because from the very beginning there was never any awkwardness between us or anything. We were just totally comfortable from the start, and it was so freaking hot. And OMG, eye contact through the whole goddamn thing, every time. I still don't think anything could top the first time we got together when he came to see me before he had to go to work, so was in full uniform, and the second he was in the door he had me up against the wall, kissing me. Taking his uniform off was so hot, because I was wearing a flimsy tank top and he was able to fondle me, while I was forced to unhook all this to get at him. The anticipation was insane. The first time I had sex with someone who was involved in kink. She was my first hookup after my breakup with my fiancé, and she had, as I later found out, had a crush on me for some time and was happy to see me post on the hookup app we had in college. I had been interested in some kink for a while, but with my ex-fiancé it had never panned out. Neither of us really knew what the hell we were doing, and we gave up after an awkward incident involving ropes. Now, jump forward to this hookup. She was just excited to have someone she could trust to guide, so she, a sub, played her part very well and enabled me to be her dom for a few sessions while I learned the ropes. LD that said, this did open me up to the fact that I am, in fact, a sub, but the thrill of the dynamic, the experimentation and learning involved, and the general roleplay of everything made the whole short-lived FWB situation absolutely mind-blowing. One of my long-term girlfriends was a squirter, only she wasn't aware until our relationship. The first time it happened she was mortified. Admittedly, I was quite entertained. Eventually she got more warmed up to the experience. After it happening several times, during our ex she would have multiple orgasms. When it got to the point where she would squirt, her orgasms would leave her physically shaking and she would writhe with pleasure and overstimulation for the next 15 minutes or so. Good times. Had ex with a fireman in his fire truck, then on his boss's desk. That was super hot. Guy I had met on Gone Wild Audio opened my eyes up to the fact that I was a full-blown humiliation degradation kink sub and wasted no time proving himself to be an amazing dom with an incredible intelligence for finding all of my weakness and insecurities and making that part of our play, but always bringing me back up and doing appropriate aftercare. We met in person a couple of times and he drove me into an absolute rabbit frenzy. Never met anyone else who could touch me like that or do the things he did or say the things he said off the cuff. I still have a deep set attraction to him. He didn't have the traditional looks that most people seem biologically drawn to, and I'll be honest that he wasn't the largest of my partners, but I'd do anything for him. He literally became my living god. It was that intense for me. I was separated from my soon-to-be ex-husband and feeling like shit after he left me for another woman. I had started casually dating a bit, but nothing more than the occasional hookup. A friend from high school happened to be in town for the holidays and wanted to catch up, so I invited him to join me at a bar with a bunch of other friends. I'd always had a little crush on him, and about 30 minutes after we got to the bar I decided I was going to take him home. We flirted and teased each other for a few hours, knowing I was going to sleep with him, but letting him think he had to charm me a bit was really exciting. Eventually I grabbed his hand and straight up asked if he wanted to come home with me, and he enthusiastically agreed. We made out in the cab home, and when we got to my bedroom he nibbled my earlobe and whispered, "I have fantasized about this for so long," laid me on the floor and gave me the best oral I had ever had. That was 9 years ago and I have never come down from how Zion desired he made me feel. We now have a son and have been happily married for 5 years. I'm sure it sounds pretty standard to the random observer, but the best sex I ever had was on a regular night with my boyfriend after getting a little high. I'm a sexual assault survivor and have a hard time letting go enough to really enjoy myself during sex, and I've found cannabis to be very helpful in both restoring my libido and increasing pleasure. On this particular night I was feeling uncharacteristically confident. I rode my boyfriend until he came inside me. He had my consent to do so, of course, I'm super into that, and then he had me lie down with my eyes closed while he played with me with a riding crop. After about 20 minutes of teasing, he fingered me to orgasm. It was so intense that I could barely move or speak for about 10 minutes. He has magic fingers. OP was probably looking for straight women, but frick it, I'm a woman. I had met a girl when I was with my first GF, and broke it off with her for the new girl. She was beautiful. She had dark hair that reached her shoulders, an incredibly endearing smile. The tension had built between us for 3 months, and as soon as I left my first GF we just let everything loose. We were both pretty young, her 19 and me 24. She was a virgin when we met, and I remember the first time I was with her. She was so turned on she was literally shaking. I slowly undressed HR while we furiously made out. She was such a good kisser, and she had the most beautiful breasts. I vividly remember the image of her when she was finally completely naked, looking at me with both nervousness and intense arousal. I kissed her and asked HR if it was okay I touched her, and she just nodded wordlessly. And the sound she made when I first slipped a finger inside her. Goddamn. I miss having sex with her so much. It was really fulfilling, exciting and emotionally. So passionate and always good. I don't really miss her as a person, but I hope she's okay. We had a really good year together. Invited a co-worker over for a movie. We usually had movie nights at another co-worker's place, but she didn't want to watch the movie we suggested, so we decided to watch it ourselves at my apartment. After the movie we ended up laying on my bed, sorta close but not cuddling, and he said your bed is so comfy, I could fall asleep right now, and I said he could stay over if he wanted to. We were laying there for a couple minutes, closer than before, having a casual conversation, and he leaned over me and asked, what are you thinking? I had feelings for him for a while at this point, but I'm a pussy, so I just said I dunno. Nothing much. And he asked me again, and so I said probably the same as you. And he kissed me. Things got pretty heated pretty fast, but we didn't have sex because I was on my period. Just teasing and hand stuff, but fuck, it was so exciting to kiss. And to be close to someone like that. Especially because I have PTSD from exile assault and have never felt safe in exile situations. With him, it was completely different and I felt safe. Things between us are over now because of an age difference and being in different stages in life, but we're good pals still. Next movie we're watching, sorry to bother you. Edit, I realize this is more the lead up to the thing than the actual experience. Oops. But I think the build up, the are we thinking and feeling the same things right now, but are too nervous to say it, is real sweet and what really made the whole thing great. First time I had sex was at a friend's party. I ended up in a bedroom with my now boyfriend and the host of the party and had a threesome. We fell asleep together and went at it again in the morning. I'm bisexual, so it was fun to joke around that I lost my virginity to both a guy and girl at the same time. A couple of years ago I went to a club with a group of friends. At around midnight or so the club started giving long balloons to everybody, and my group and I started doing limbo, and a bunch of people started joining. A couple of foreigners came by, and one of them handed me his beer while he limboed. He was tall, blonde, and even through his clothes I noticed that he had an amazing body. When he was done with the limbo I gave his beer back with a smile. He smiled back and we started dancing. The music playing was reggaeton, and for anyone that doesn't know how to dance it, it's pretty exile, much like grinding crotches to the rhythm of the music. He told me he was from Ireland, and he wasn't all that good at dancing, so I grabbed him by the waist and made him follow the rhythm of my hips. Then he suddenly grabbed me by the butt and lifted me from the floor. I was pleasantly surprised, and I grabbed onto his shoulders. At this point I could feel the muscles of his back and it was amazing. We started making out while he was carrying me, and it has been the best kiss I've had, period. We danced, made out, and felt each other through our clothes for the rest of the night. We didn't have sex, but it has been my most enjoyable experience so far. My fiance and I doing anal for the first time after working up to it slowly for a couple weeks. Pinned down and doggy style with a vibrator on my clit. The pressure was immense and just made everything that much more intense. My boyfriend and I loved SM. One time I tied his hands and then spanked him until his butt is all red and I knew he was in pain because he was letting out painful screams and flinching. I continued and I was so turned on. Then he fricked me hard and that was the best orgasm I ever had. Probably the first time my boyfriend, now husband, and I were intimate. It was awkward, and weird, and terrifying in its newness. Yet I didn't feel pressured, didn't feel afraid, I felt elated, loved, excited. He gave me oral and my body trembled for the rest of the day. It was the first time I was in a relationship with someone that felt right, that didn't feel like I was settling because I didn't deserve more. He was the first guy I was with, and the first blowjob I gave. He didn't make me feel bad for what I know now was probably a not at all great experience. I've certainly gotten better as time has gone on. The fact that my parents didn't know where I was added to it and made things more daring, so that may have something to do with the pleasant shiver down my spine every time I think of it. I'm very into bondage torture, and I was once part of an orgy where all of the other girls had me tied down as they took turns sitting on my face while another one was whipping my pussy. This went on for a couple hours and then they put a Hitachi bib on my clit and left me there to orgasm uncontrollably for almost an hour. Hottest thing I've ever been a part of. The first time I ever had 2 boys at a time nipple frick me, one in each breast, I had my head slammed against the backboard of the bed like 3 fricking times LMAO. Backstory for those confused, boys can literally push their penis into my nipple, like roughly a pointer finger's worth of length into my breast, and basically have sex with my boob. I've been told it's called a nipple frick in anime videos or something, but it's not really a thing even women with large breasts should be capable of doing. It's like a quirk of my breast augmentations, at least according to my plastic surgeon. And no, I'm not kidding, here's about half my pointer finger inside of my breast. I have a sneaking suspicion that most of these comments are just going to be dudes' ex fantasies. Well, there was this one time where my ex made me come several times with penetration only and I thought that I was going to die because of the pleasure. And another time where one friend of mine made me come by touching my right calf while biting my neck. This was after several orgasms, so I was extra sensitive. One day he tied me up and made me go around the hall with my arms behind me, and the fear of getting caught like that and the ex we had afterwards were freaking good. When I was in college, I reconnected with one of my high school math teachers. He was 10 years older than me. I always had a crush on him, but obviously nothing happened. When I was in college, we would email occasionally and that progressed to texting. Fast forward a few months and we hung out and he kissed me. That was exciting and thrilling. Fast forward some more time and we decided to try things out and date. The first time we had sex was one of the best. Not only were we very compatible and into the same kinks, but the feeling of finally being with someone you have thought about for so long was amazing. We dated for quite a while and I still think about him. It's been years. Huh? You assume that I've had a exol experience. Op shamelessly looking for fat material. My ex-girlfriend. We met online. We were friends for a few years before we fell in love. When we finally met in person. Whoa. The exaltation had been building for so long, when it finally happened it was an explosion. I'll never forget it and I still to this day haven't had anything better. This was several years ago. I had stopped seeing this guy who I had a lot of emotional baggage and drama with. It had been 6 months since we had broken up or had sex at all, but we had been spending time together again and the tension was building up higher and higher each time. One day we were at a party with a bunch of our co-workers. The co-worker thing contributed to a lot of our drama problems, and decided to sneak out of the party together to do some blow. We were both big partiers at the time and I also had some MDMA on me. I don't know if any of you have ever had these kinds of months of exaltation built up with someone you're very connected with, but it is so unbelievably passionate and heated. So we take a little Molly and right as it starts kicking in, he leads me into his shower. Touching him and fooling around in the shower on Molly is probably my zest memory maybe ever. We just wanted to devour each other. It had been so long since we touched like this, I had wanted it so badly for months. It was like a dream and every move was so intensified with the MDMA and the hot water on our bodies. Eventually we want to start really freaking and go to his room. I've done a lot of MDMA in my day and he's maybe the only guy who's been able to get stay hard and calm while on it. We fricked for about 4 hours that night. He came in me 3 times and I got off as well. It was that kind of fricking where you literally can barely even stop for water or anything, except maybe to do another point, because it feels like all time and space has slipped away and the rhythm of your body's need to keep going. At one point he held my face, looked in my eyes and said, "It's just you. It's just me." Anyway. The Exul relationship continued on for a while, but we ended up kind of ruining each other's lives. Still, I don't think I've ever felt as and passionate as I have those days with him and that night specifically, although TBF the drug use intensifies things a lot. We don't really talk anymore, but I think he's doing okay now and I am too. Definitely still revisit those memories every now and then. Didn't exactly hate writing this all out right now. TLDR. Turns out when two people kind of hate each other but have insane Exul chemistry and good drugs, shit gets real. I got a grape suck in my ass. The best is definitely with the guy I am currently dating. He is quite bigger than me, so it took us a while to find our rhythm. We were just having regular sex, nothing too fancy, but we found our rhythm. It was wonderful, we had a deep emotional connection. I remember being able to feel every part of him. I wanna cry just remembering it, lol. We haven't been going out long, and depression stress life have been getting in the way. But I haven't felt this way about someone in a very long time. I hope we make it. I had been getting to know this guy at work, and for months it was just friendship, but the connection between us kept building, as did the Exul tension. For my birthday, we met up after his shift and had car X that was so damn hot and fantastic I still get myself off to it even now, and that happened months ago. Kinda vanilla compared to some of the other stories on here, but I never had car X up until that point and we were both so into each other that it really left a mark on me. I would like to know how many men are reading through this, hoping to find a story that's about them. Just a few weeks ago, I was looking for hookups on a dating app. Me and this guy messaged back and forth a few times, exchanged numbers, and we really hit it off. Emotionally we just seem to be on the same wavelength. About a week goes by and we plan a night for X. He comes to my place and I can't explain it, we just clicked. Held each other for a while, made out a good while, really explored each other, and eventually we made our way to the bedroom and clothes came off. It was the most gratifying Exul experience of my life so far. Neither one of us orgasmed, performance anxiety, but we had really passionate, sensual, intimate X 6 times over the next 18 hours. Even though neither of us hit the finish line, I never felt more satisfied Exully. We didn't just do it missionary style, but that was my favorite part. Being able to hold each other close, kiss, look into each other's eyes. It was amazing. A few days later it was clear we weren't going to be more than what we had already experienced with each other. I'm still trying to remind myself that X can be that good and I will find it with another person. Former foreign exchange student who was back in country visiting his host family. I suppose it was the equivalent to a 3-month-long one-night stand due to the fact we both knew we wouldn't see each other again after he left. Internet was still in its infancy, so it was a lot harder to keep in touch. But knowing when and how things would end was actually incredibly freeing. I didn't have to worry about the future or whether or not it would work out. I was free to just enjoy the time with him. He was great in bed. When I was in my early 20s I went to a convention in Orlando. My roommate was a colleague and she had family in the area, so I had a hotel room by myself. A much older man was right down the hall from me. He was mid-50s easily. We instantly connected, and before long he was sticking his tongue and later his big fat D inside of me. He hosed me down nicely. He made me come so much. I let him frick me without a condom. He told me he had a vasectomy probably when I was 10 or 11. I wondered what his ejaculate was like in his 20s. It probably would have shot me in the air like a rocket, lol. He was a grandfather and some of his sons were older than me. He told me he wasn't sure he could still get an erection before I came around. I fricked him as much as humanly possible during those 3 days. I still think about him. He's in his 70s now probably. Don't know, still waiting for it. An ex that was into light domination. The strange thing is that I had always thought of myself as mostly dominant in the bedroom, but I met that guy at a time of my life when I think I needed to let go of stuff, and he helped me do that. Having him boss me around in bed, and also being one of the best overall ex I ever had. Helped me regain confidence I had lost because of a bad divorce. Being submissive made me feel empowered. Anyway, things didn't work out because he turned out to be also controlling in general aspects of life, which was a no-go for me. I still think about it sometimes. The best was one time when he tied me up. It was just an amazing experience. Oh, just thought of another one. Weirdly was at the same period of my life. Guess divorce opened space for amazing exile encounters, haha. Met a guy, and every freaking time we had sex, he would make me squirt. Never happened to me before and never since. I don't know what was going on. Also, it was not even the best sex I had, and he was not particularly well hung or anything. My body just immediately responded like that. Very strange, but super hot, for him as well as myself. When I was 23 or so, I started chatting with an older guy online. We were friendly like that for like a good year or so, and things became exul over time. Eventually he paid for me to travel to meet him. He picked me up and took me to his house, and we cuddled a bit, and it escalated until I was down on my knees giving my first ever blowjob. The way his home was set up was on that level. There were huge windows on two sides. His place was secluded enough though in the country that I felt okay with it, plus we were on the second floor. I loved every second of it. There was a bit of a thrill, there being no curtains. I was young and inexperienced, and he was older, but he didn't pressure me to do anything I wasn't comfortable with. I sucked him off non-stop that weekend because after that first lick I was a little bit addicted. He also jerked off on me a number of times. He didn't complain. I realize it seems like my needs weren't met, but in some way they were. He touched me as well and I loved it, but I told him I wasn't ready to go all the way, but I liked all the other stuff we were doing, so we stuck to that. He gave me such a great experience that to this day I still have a thing for older men. He and I didn't work out, but damn did he have a glorious arc. Well, in April of this year I went on vacation to Florida. I like to use Tinder while I'm on vacation because there's nothing like a local perspective. Well, I'm swiping, I see this man. He is so beautiful I think he must be a catfish, but alas I swipe right and we match. We are talking, I ask him if he wants to hang out. He says yes. I ask him what's something fun to do. He says him. I say yes. I'm still thinking this guy is a catfish, so I send him some photos and ask for photos of him in return. He obliged, and lo and behold he is just as freaking hot as he said he was. He comes over, I answer the door, and he is this tall drunk of water, and so's I. He comes in, he starts kissing me, we go to my room and he asks me to get naked and do. He sits on the bed and he tells me to spin around slowly because he wants to take in every inch of me. I feel silly doing this, but also I have never felt zero in my entire life. I'm giggling and spinning slow. He stops me while I am facing away from him. He wraps his arms around me and pulls me into his lap. I can feel him hard against my ass. He is watching my face in the bathroom mirror. He whispers to me that I am the most gorgeous woman he has ever seen. He starts kissing my neck and shoulders. He turns my face to kiss him. He tells me to stand up. He stands up. He puts me against the bed, drops to his knees and starts going down on me. My legs are shaking. I'm thinking, is this really happening? Someone pinch me, I am dreaming. He then picks me up. Mind you, I am not a small girl. I am a pretty big girl. And he picked me up by my knees and he throws me on the bed. He gets naked, grabs a condom and gets on top. Not only is he beautiful, he also has the perfect size cock that is also so beautiful. Anyway, we start, and it feels way too good. My mind is already freaking blown. We stood, he tells me to stand up and turn around, I do. The man licks me, from front to back, literally all the way. I am dying. He is telling me how high I am and he asks if he can use a toy. He grabs a butt plug and some lube, and I'm not a stranger to anal, but it's been a long time at this point I'm in my life, but I oblige. It's kind tough to get in, but we do, and he just keeps going. I am loving everything he does. Finally we are back to just good old missionary. He asks if he can go in my A, and I am just so turned on I say yes. We just slowly work him in and it feels so good. It was just pleasure overload. He starts whispering in my ear how beautiful I am and how he can't believe he gets to be with me. How bad he wanted me the moment he saw me. And I'm just dying. The whispers just drive me over the edge. I start coming and the contractions cause him to start coming. It was insane. The best sex and orgasm I have had from X. While I am in Florida we continue to see each other. A month after I'll leave he decides to come down to see me. The X is incredible, and this time we decided to go no condom. Long story short, he ends up going back to Florida because he decided that a weekend with me was too overwhelming. He drove 1,500 miles here and 1,500 miles back. To make matters worse, he then discloses that he has herpes and HPV. So I'm devastated, like high-key devastated. Not only has this man rejected me on another level, but he could have given me something. I spent basically the rest of the month of May at the doctor's, getting tested. I did the HPV vaccine when I was young and fortunately and tested negative for both HPV and herpes and all other STDs. My best experience was also my worst. TLDR. Florida man rocks my world. Furiously scribbles notes for later review.